Chapter 5387. I don't lack disciples. Yuan Ji's words made the atmosphere in the room even more tense. Xian Hu's brows were tightly knitted. Why did this old thing Lei Wu come here? Why did he come here? Qi Dong's face was gloomy. He finally understood why Yun Chujio came to see Xian Hui for 2 days in a row. It turned out that she was a lobbyist for the Zen sect. Now it seemed that they had reached an initial consensus, so Lei Wu came personally. This was really outrageous. Master Xian Hui, don't you have any explanation for this? Qi Dong said coldly. Xian Hui was originally very displeased because she suspected that Xian Ji was a spy. Now that she saw Qi Dong being so aggressive, she sneered and said, "Protector Qi Dong, your words are really strange. What do I have to explain?" Qi Dong was choked by the rebuke. He wanted to flare up, but he wanted to see what Master Liaowu was here for, so he said, "Master Xian Hui, since Master Liaowu came to visit, shouldn't you let someone invite him in?" Xian Hui sneered and said to Yuan Ji, who was dumbfounded, "Invite Master Liaowu in." A moment later, Master Liaowu entered the room. Although they were enemies, they still had to be polite on the surface. Xian Hui and Qi Dong stood up and exchanged a few pleasantries before the three of them took their seats. After drinking 2 sips of tea, Master Liaowu smiled and said, "I took the liberty to visit you. I didn't disturb you, did I?" Xian Hui also smiled and said, "Master Liaowu, you don't have to be so polite. I wonder why you are here?" Master Liaowu glanced at Qi Dong and then said, "It's nothing serious. I was invited by Master Xian Hui at the Bitter Zen sect and wanted to catch up with you." Hearing this, Qi Dong sneered in his heart. Catch up with you? Did he think he was a 3-year-old kid? The Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect had always been on bad terms. If there was nothing fishy going on, why would Master Liaowu come to see Xian Hui? It seemed that the sect master of the Bitter Zen sect had to be replaced. Otherwise, the Bitter Zen sect would sooner or later break away from the control of the Divine Devil Hall. Xian Hui didn't believe that Master Liaowu was just here to catch up, but she didn't say much and continued to chat awkwardly. Qi Dong felt that even if he stayed, he wouldn't gain anything, so he stood up and took his leave. Xian Hui left a few words, but seeing that Qi Dong was determined to leave, she didn't say anything more. After Qi Dong left, Master Liao's face immediately darkened, and he said unhappily, "Master Xian Hui, what do you mean?" Xian Hui was simply angered to the point of being dumbfounded. Previously, Qi Dong had not rebuked him with his nose, but now he was questioning him without any reason. Everyone thought that he, Xian Hui, was a soft persimmon that they could pinch whenever they wanted. Xian Hui held back the impulse to make a move and said with a gloomy face, "Master Liaowu, what do you mean by this?" Master Liao's face was full of indignation. "What do I mean? Although Yun Chujio is a little girl, I have always treated her as a disciple. I was ready to take her as a disciple, and she agreed readily. However, today she suddenly told me that she has decided to acknowledge you as her master. Don't you have anything to say? What kind of scheme did you use to trick that little girl?" Xian Hui was stunned, but when he saw that Master Liao's eyes were red with anger, a strange sense of pride welled up in his heart. "So what if you knew that little girl first? Isn't that little girl still eagerly begging me to be her master?" He sneered, "Master Liao, this matter can't be blamed on me. It's that little girl who cried and insisted on acknowledging me as her master. I'm also very helpless. I don't lack disciples, so I really don't want to accept her." Chapter 5388 is my disciple. Master Liao looked at Xian Hu's smug expression and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. However, he was somewhat jealous. Although that little girl said that she was trying to drive a wedge between the Bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall, this Xian Hu's appearance was really asking for a beating. He snorted coldly. "She's young and simple-minded. It's hard to avoid being deceived by you. No matter what, I am more suitable to be her master than you are. You must have used some sinister means. Otherwise, she would not acknowledge you as her master." Xian Hui was immediately unhappy. He sneered. "Oh, then I want to hear how am I, Xian Hui, inferior to you? How am I inferior to you?" Let's not talk about other things. The Divine Devil Hall is her mortal enemy, and your bitter Zen sect is on good terms with the Divine Devil Hall. If that little girl takes you as her master, are you going to protect her or hand her over to the Divine Devil Hall? So, you didn't take her as your disciple to train her, but to deceive her and send her to the Divine Devil Hall to flatter her. What? You want to deny it? If that's not the case, why did Qidong from the Divine Devil Hall come here? You must be conspiring to deceive little Gio. To think that she said you are an eminent monk. What a good scheme. Master Liao's face was full of sarcasm. Xianhui was furious. She felt like she was about to die of injustice. You are spouting nonsense. Qidong came here to ask Yun Chujio what she is doing. There is no conspiracy at all. Xianhui, do you think I am a 3-year-old child? He asked you why little Gio is here? Does he want you to tie little Gio up and hand her over to him? Xianhui's old face flushed red because Master Liao was right. Qidong's goal was this. However, the crux of the problem was that he did not say what Yun Chujio was here for, nor did he agree to Qidong's request. Thus, he explained, although Qidong did have this intention, I did not agree to it, nor did I reveal that Yun Chujio wanted to acknowledge me as her master. Master Liaowu waved his hand impatiently. I am impatient to hear you say these things. I came here today to warn you not to have any ideas about little Nine. She is my disciple. Xianhui was also a proud person. After hearing what Master Liaowu said, even if he originally did not intend to accept Yun Chujio, he had to accept her now. He had to accept her. This Master Liaowu was so angry. He sneered, Master Liaowu, what you said is not right. You have to be willing to take her as your master. Yun, little Nine doesn't like you. Even if you threaten me, it's useless. Master Liaowu thought, this old thing changed her words fast enough. In the blink of an eye, she became little Nine. However, all of this was exactly what little Nine had expected. That little girl was really smart. He snorted coldly. Don't be so sure. Before I came, I had already explained the stakes to little Nine. She might have already changed her mind. If you don't believe me, I will call her over right now and see who she will choose. If you want to call her, then call her. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Xianhui snorted coldly. Previously, he had been angered by Qidong, and now he had been bullied by Master Liaowu. He was hot-blooded, so he couldn't care much about it, so he agreed immediately. Master Liaowu had a cold smile on his face, and then he sent a message to Yun Chujio. A moment later, Yun Chujio came over in high spirits, holding a jar of wine in her hand. The spies of the Divine Devil Hall immediately reported this news to Qidong, and Qidong immediately smashed the teacup in his hand into pieces. Chapter 5389. The ceremony of acknowledging a Master Qidong's face was gloomy. He had guessed correctly. Yun Chujio had gone to look for Xianhui twice in order to matchmake the Chan sect. Apparently, Xianhui and the non-phase talk had reached an agreement, so she had called Yun Chujio, that stinky girl, to celebrate. If it was not for the celebration, why did she especially carry a jar of spiritual wine? Xianhui, the old bald donkey, played him like a fool. She was really courting death. Xianhui naturally did not know that Qidong had already imagined a big drama. He frowned when he saw the jar of wine in He Xinjia's hands. Why are you hugging the jar of wine? Yun Chujio put the jar of wine on the table and said, I've thought it through. Today, I have to settle the matter of master. This jar of wine will be used as an apprentice gift. Both Xianhui and Lei Wu felt that this little girl was really stingy. Only one jar of wine was given as a gift to acknowledge him as her master? Yun Chujio seemed to have seen through the intentions of the two of them. She opened the wine seal and immediately, the room was filled with the rich aroma of wine. Yun Chujio had once obtained several jars of 10,000-year-old spirit wine in Supreme City. Because of the rich aroma, even if she added a cup of ordinary spirit wine, it would be able to turn it into a rare top-grade spirit wine on the market. After Yun Chujio opened the wine seal, she moved to the side. The fragrance of the wine was too strong, so she poured herself another cup, afraid that she would get drunk. Master Liaowu and Xianhui, however, came to the front of the wine jar at the same time, and their faces revealed some drooling looks. It was not that they were not reserved, but this jar of wine was too fragrant and mellow. It seemed like it had been there for 1,000 years. Yun Chujio saw their expressions and curled the corners of her lips. She took a step forward and closed the wine seal again. Even so, the room was still filled with the mellow fragrance of the wine. Little Jiao, I have told you before that you were only deceived by Xian Hui. He is not suitable to be your master, so you should take me as your master. Master Liao Wu stared at the wine jar and said. He had completely forgotten that he had previously said that as the sect master of the Zen sect, it was impossible for him to take a little girl as his disciple. When Xian Hui heard him say this, she immediately became anxious. Yun, little 9 girl, don't listen to his nonsense. Our fate as master and disciple was set in our previous life. You called me master a few times before. Logically speaking, you should take me as your master. On one hand, Xian Hui wanted to compete with Master Liao. On the other hand, he was fond of fine wine, so he naturally had to get his hands on such a mellow wine. Yun Chujio was proud of herself. When she was attending the banquet at the Bitter Zen sect, she found Xian Hui drinking one cup after another. Moreover, whether it was dinner yesterday or lunch today, Yuan Ji had prepared a small pot of spirit wine for Xian Hui. This Xian Hui was obviously a drunkard. As for Master Liao Wu, although he didn't drink as much as Xian Hui, he would still drink a few cups at every banquet. In addition, this wine wasn't available on the market, so he would naturally be tempted. Although Yun Chujio was feeling proud in her heart, she had a troubled expression on her face and didn't say anything for a long time. It wasn't until Xian Hui was waiting anxiously that Yun Chujio said, Master Liao, to tell you the truth, Buddha once gave me a dream and said that Master Xian Hui and I were master and disciple in our previous lives. If we don't resolve this karma, Master Xian Hui and I won't be able to ascend. When Xian Hui heard this, she was immediately delighted. It seemed that this little girl had decided to acknowledge him as her master. But what you said makes sense. The Bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall are now in a cooperative relationship. If I acknowledge Master Xian Hui as my master, I'm afraid I will make things difficult for Master Xian Hui. Moreover, Master Liao Wu, you have taken care of me many times. The senior brothers of the Zen sect are also very good to me. Sigh, I'm really in a dilemma. I'm so worried. Yun Chujio said with a sad face. However, the little person in this guy's heart was jumping with joy. One master was also worshipped, and 2 masters were also worshipped. Let's accept them together. Chapter 5390 was a good idea to have the best of both worlds. Xian Hu's heart was in a mess. He thought that it was a sure thing, but now it seemed that he might really have let Old Man Wu poach him. However, he didn't make up his mind to break with the Divine Devil Hall, so he didn't know how to explain himself. Master Liao Wu knew that the master and disciple karma was fake, but he couldn't ruin Yun Chujio's reputation. Therefore, the situation was in a stalemate. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes, took out 2 wine glasses, and opened the wine jar. She said heroically, forget it. Let's talk about the matter of becoming a master later. Let's drink first. As he said this, he poured 2 glasses of wine and respectfully handed them to Xian Hui and Master Liao Wu. The 2 of them had been craving for it for a long time. Naturally, they wanted to quench their craving first. Thus, the 2 of them didn't say anything and took the wine glasses and drank. After drinking a cup of wine, not only did they not satisfy their craving, they were even more tempted. Fortunately, Yun Chujio filled the cups for the 2 of them again. She even took out a few plates of vegetarian dishes as the dishes to go with the wine. In the beginning, it was Yun Chujio who helped persuade them to drink. Later on, there was no need for Yun Chujio to speak at all. Xian Hui and Master Liao Wu started to toast each other. Hei Xinjiu blinked her eyes and deliberately opened the window next to the street. When she saw someone poking his head out from the 2nd floor of the inn across the street, the corners of his mouth curled up. He deliberately moved to the side and revealed the 2 people who were exchanging cups. Then he hurriedly closed the window. The corners of his mouth curled up. She was sure that after this incident, the Divine Devil Hall would be very suspicious of Xian Hui. Even if Xian Hui was covered in her mouth, she couldn't explain it clearly. When Xian Hui and Master Liaowu were in the midst of their drunken mood, Yun Chujio sighed and said, I still have a few jars of this wine. After I take you as my master, I will give them all to my master. However, both of you are pretty good. I don't know who I should take you as my master. Xian Hui and Liaowu naturally had another argument. Xian Hui was provoked by Liaowu and said with a hint of drunkenness, Little girl, aren't you just worried about the divine devil hall? To tell you the truth, I have long had enough of the divine devil hall's cowardice. Sooner or later, I will find an opportunity to completely break with the divine devil hall. Just take me as your master. Hearing that, Yun Chujio immediately said happily, Really? That's great. But I am only one person, I can't split into two. Otherwise, I might as well take you two as my masters. As for the fine wine, how about you guys split it equally? As Yun Chujio said this, she directly took out 4 wine jars and placed them on the ground. Xian Hui and Master Liaowu had already drunk quite a lot of wine. Although they were still rational, they were still slightly tipsy. For a moment, they felt that Yun Chujio's idea of having the best of both worlds was not bad. The two of them stared at the wine jar on the ground and nodded in agreement. Yun Chujio deliberately led the two of them to say a few more words. Then, she turned off the recording stone in her hand, and a sinister smile appeared on her face. This fellow had achieved his goal, so he simply put away the wine jar and advised them, Masters, the Zhongxiao festival is about to begin tomorrow. Don't drink anymore so as to avoid causing trouble. Although Xian Hui and Kuai Wu weren't very happy, but fortunately, their wine was good, so they didn't insist. Yun Chujio asked Yuan Ji to bring the hangover soup for the two to drink, then asked Yuan Ji to help them onto the bed. Soon, the two fell asleep. Yuan Ji's eyes were wide open. He felt that the world changed too quickly. Wasn't his master and Master Liaowu sworn enemies? Why were they drinking and chatting happily? And then, they even slept on the same bed. Chapter 5391 was determined not to admit it. Yun Chujio was afraid that something unexpected would happen, so she asked Yuan Ji to stay with her in the house. Yuan Ji held it in for a while, but he couldn't hold it in anymore, so he asked, Junior sister Yun, did you have a hard life in the past? Yun Chujio didn't know where his brainless words came from, but she still said, whether it's hard or not depends on what the person thinks. I think it's still pretty good. At least I'm alive and kicking now. I'm already very satisfied. Yuan Ji sighed in his heart. Junior sister Yun was really optimistic. He asked again, then do you hate Master? Yun Chujio looked at him in confusion and then said, it's not really about whether I hate him or not. It turns out that our positions are different, so there's naturally some conflict. But in the future, he will be my master. No matter how wrong he is, I won't say anything. Yuan Ji nodded repeatedly. Junior sister Yun, you are right to think that way. Master must have his own difficulties. It is great that you and your daughter are reunited. Yun Chujio, father, daughter, Tuan Yuan? This Yuan Ji must be an idiot, right? No wonder he sounded weird. So he thought she was Xian Hu's daughter? How blind was he? Other things aside, how could Xian Hu's stupid brain give birth to such a smart daughter? After Yuan Ji found out that he had misunderstood, his face immediately flushed red, but he was even more confused. Since Yun Chujio had nothing to do with Master, why was Master so good to her? Did he really want to take her as a little girl as a disciple? However, this was not impossible. After all, his master and Master Liaowu slept on the same bed. When Master Liaowu and Xian Hui woke up, it was already evening. The two of them opened their eyes and almost screamed when they saw each other beside them. It was really a ghost. When the two of them were still in a daze, they heard Yun Chujio say clearly, the two masters are awake. Senior brother Yuan Ji, quickly send some congee and side dishes over so that the two masters can sober up. Yuan Ji had already been knocked unconscious by the words two masters. Was he mistaken or did Yun Chujio say something wrong? It should be the two sect masters. How could it be the two masters? Sect Master Liaowu and Xian Hui were also stunned. Then, they recalled some fragments, and both of them were somewhat annoyed. The two of them were usually very vigilant. How could they be drunk by this little girl today? Moreover, they had agreed to take this little girl as a disciple together? This was not just taking her as a disciple. In this way, the outside world would definitely think that the Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect had formed an alliance. Xian Hui and Master Liaowu looked at each other. For the first time, the two of them had reached an agreement and refused to admit it. Therefore, Master Liaowu rubbed his temples and said, "Little Nine, this apprenticeship is not child's play. You can only choose one of us." Xian Hui also echoed, "That's right. You can choose either me or him. You can't choose two." Yun Chujio immediately laughed when she heard this. Her smile was extremely brilliant. Xian Hui and Master Liaowu looked at each other. This little girl was crazy, right? Yun Chujio did not speak either. Instead, she activated the recording stone and a voice came from within. "Yun Chujio, Master Liaowu, Master Xian Hui, is it true that you want to accept me as a successor disciple together? You won't deny it in the future, right?" Master Liaowu, "Amitba. Monks don't lie. Naturally, they won't go back on their word." Xian Hui, "If I say anything, I, Xian Hui, will naturally not go back on my word." Yun Chujio, "All right, since the two masters are so resolute, then this matter is settled. If anyone goes back on their word and doesn't go back on their word, then it will be a turtle bastard." Chapter 5392 took in two masters. When Xian Hui and Master Liaowu heard the sound coming from the recording stone, their faces froze. For words appeared in Master Liaowu's mind. He was cheated again. They had agreed to cheat Xian Hui, so why did he get himself involved in the end? Didn't they agree to act? Why did he become the main character just by acting? How was he going to explain to the people of the Zen sect that he had accepted this little girl as his successor disciple? However, he couldn't admit that he was a turtle bastard now, could he? Forget it. When she was pretending to be lonely, she was already half a disciple of his. So be it. Moreover, the Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect had the same origin. If Xian Hui turned back, it would be a good thing for the two sects to form an alliance. Xian Hui gritted her teeth. Qi Dong seemed to be suspicious of him anyway, so she might as well take this opportunity to break with the Divine Devil Hall and prevent the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall from finding trouble with her in the future. As for taking this little girl as a disciple, it was just a title. She couldn't really shave her head and become a monk, so it wouldn't affect anything. Therefore, Master Liaowu and Xian Hui didn't say anything and just silently agreed to this matter. Yun Chujio immediately gave them 2 jars of wine with a smile. She knelt down on the ground and kowtowed 3 more times, and the master-disciple relationship was set. Xian Hui and Master Liaowu saw that Mu Qingzhou had already taken the 2 jars of wine, and the unhappiness in their hearts that they had been schemed against disappeared. Yun Chujio originally wanted to thicken her skin and ask for the gift, but this guy decided to take it easy so as not to anger the two of them. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. Whether it was the bitter Zen sect or the Zen sect, the good things were all hers. What was the rush? If Xian Hui and Master Liaowu knew what this guy was thinking, they probably wouldn't have accepted her as a disciple even if they were branded as a bastard. At this moment, Yuan Ji brought out the porridge and dishes. After the 3 of them had eaten, Yun Chujio asked, "Master Xian Hui, do you know what the Divine Devil Hall is planning to do with this grand meeting?" Xian Hui shook her head. "The Divine Devil Hall has always been close to Xian Ji. Ever since I took over, there has been almost no contact." Xian Hui had always felt that the Divine Devil Hall was dissatisfied with him killing Xian Ji. This was also one of the reasons why he changed sides so easily. The 3 of them discussed for a while but didn't get much. In addition, it was getting late, so Master Liaowu and Yun Chujio got up and left. After Master Liaowu sent Yun Chujio safely to the Fulai Inn, they turned around and left. The ancestor of the Lan family had been waiting for the news of Yun Chujio. After seeing her, he asked hurriedly, "Why did Master Liaowu go to the Fulai Inn? What happened?" Yun Chujio yawned. "It's not a big deal. It's just that I took in Master Xian Hui and Master Liaowu as my masters. The Zen sect and the Zen sect have formed an alliance. The patriarch of the Lan family, the Zen sect and the Zen sect had formed an alliance? This was not a big deal. This would have a far-reaching impact on the situation of the Chongshao continent. Perhaps because of this change, the entire Chongshao continent would be stirred up. Wait, what did she say just now? She took in Master Xian Hui and Master Liaowu as her master? Why did these words feel so strange? Usually, they would take in disciples. Why did she become their master? The Lan family's ancestor only recovered after a long time. He asked curiously, why did Master Xian Hui and Master Liaowu agree to take you in as their disciple together? Yun Chujio yawned again and said naturally, maybe it's because I'm too outstanding. Chapter 5393 Beautiful Dreams. Although the Lan family's patriarch felt that Yun Chujia's smug appearance was very annoying, he couldn't help but exclaim at her intelligence. She actually used only 2 days to incite Xian Hui and even let him take her in as a successor disciple. If this were to be spread out, no one would believe it at all. Not to mention the others, even he felt that it was like a dream. Seeing that Yun Chujio kept yawning, the old ancestor of the Lan family did not ask further and let her return to her room. Yun Chujio was very tired. She washed up briefly and then went to bed to rest. Although the others looked like she easily incited Xian Hui to betray her, every scheme did not come out of thin air. She had to think hard and only she knew the hardships involved. She did not know if it was because she was excited about her wish. Although she kept yawning, Yun Chujio tossed and turned in bed for a long time. She only fell asleep in the second half of the night. Early the next morning, Yun Chujio was woken up by Lan Luofeng. Little Jio, hurry up. Otherwise it will be too late. Yun Chujio resisted the urge to get up. She left the room with a gloomy face. She did not even wash her face. Lan Luofeng had a lot to say, but when she saw Yun Chujio's dead look, she immediately shut her mouth and didn't say anything. Seeing Yun Chujio like this, the ancestor of the Lan family knew that Yun Chujio probably didn't sleep well last night. He said with a pleasant face, when we get to the venue, you can catch up on your sleep. Lan Luofeng and the others felt sour in their hearts. If they were like this, the ancestor would have reprimanded them long ago. However, when they came to little Jio, it became a comfort. Comparing people was really infuriating. They did not know that He Xinjiao had accomplished a big thing yesterday. Not to mention just getting up in a fit of anger, even if she had smashed the inn, the ancestor of the Lan family would have thought that it was a good smash. After the Lan family had a simple breakfast, they left Four Seasons City and headed straight for the Four Seasons mountain range. The venue of the Chongshao festival was set at the foot of the Four Seasons mountain range. Many people had already gathered to watch the show. After the Lan family members sat in the designated area, Yun Chujio glanced around and closed her eyes to catch up on her sleep. This fellow often dreamed, and today was no exception. Although it was just a nap, she still had dreams. However, today's dream was somewhat pleasant. She actually dreamed that there were a lot of spiritual stones buried under the seat, and then she became rich and walked to the peak of her life. She married a gigolo, slept with him every day, and gave birth to a bunch of little ones. Just when this fellow was extremely beautiful, he was woken up by the noise. This fellow opened his eyes in confusion and found that he was currently at the venue of the Great Firmament Territory Assembly. He immediately sighed. So it was a dream. The noise just now was because Palace Master Long of the Divine Devil Hall had arrived. Of course, Palace Master Long was only the Palace Master of this branch of the Heavy Cloud Continent. Even so, as Palace Master Long rarely showed his face, everyone craned their necks to see what Palace Master Long looked like. Palace Master Long wore a red mask on his face, and judging from his figure, he should be an old man. Yun Chujio curled her lips. The Divine Devil Hall loved to be mysterious, and they were all shameless people. Just as she was cursing in her heart, Palace Master Long had already walked onto the high platform. Everyone, we have the honor to invite all the mighty figures of the Divine Enlightenment continent to this great firmament gala. I would like to give you a grand introduction. Master Wu Ben of the 10,000 Buddhas Sacred Hall, Vice-Chancellor Duanmu of the 10 Directions Academy, Vice-Chancellor Mo of the Divine Enlightenment Academy, Vice-General Sima of the Iron Blood Killing Alliance, and Chancellor Qi of the 10,000 Cities Alliance. Chapter 5394 Digging for Fun. Yun Chujio squinted her eyes as she listened. Normally, such a list would be read according to the status of the power from high to low. Then, the names that were read earlier were obviously the top powers. And she learned from Master Liao Wu that the status of the Wu generation in the 10,000 Buddhas Sacred Hall was not low. By the same reasoning, the status of the people from other powers who came to participate would not be too low. Then the question arose. How could a grand meeting on a lower continent be able to invite these people? Was it because of the fame and power of the Divine Devil Hall, or was it because they had other motives? Yun Chujio heard the name of the 1,000 Feet sect at the end of the list. She thought to herself, it seemed that her previous deduction was right. The 1,000 Feet sect was a low-level force in the Divine Enlightenment continent. No wonder Qidong compromised so easily. To the people of the Heavy Cloud continent, the people of the Divine Enlightenment continent were almost the same as immortals. Therefore, after Palace Master Long read out the list, they burst into applause. However, those people from the Divine Enlightenment continent who were sitting in the VIP seats didn't say anything, because in their eyes, the people of the Heavy Cloud continent were just ants. If it weren't for the matter brought up by the Divine Devil Hall, they wouldn't have come to the Heavy Cloud continent in such a condescending manner. Palace Master Long said a few more pleasantries before returning to his seat. At this moment, Qidong walked onto the high platform and said, "Everyone, the Heavy Cloud Grand Meeting this time can be said to be unprecedented. Not only has it provided everyone with a platform for exchange, but there are also 10 spots for direct ascension. There will definitely be people who will be concerned about the conditions of these 10 spots. Everyone, don't be impatient. When the time is ripe, I will naturally inform everyone. As today is the first day of the grand meeting of the Great Firmament, we have arranged some entertainment for everyone. I hope that everyone will be satisfied." After Qidong left, several disciples of the Divine Devil Hall went up to the stage and began to compete. Of course, this kind of competition was mainly about performance. It was even deliberately made to be a little comical, causing the people below to cheer. Yun Chujio really could not figure out what the Divine Devil Hall was up to. They had summoned everyone with great fanfare just to watch this? Just as Yun Chujio was cursing in her heart, she felt an unfriendly gaze. She looked up and saw a person in the VIP seats staring at her fiercely. The corners of her lips curled up. This person was from the 1,000 Feet sect. Was it because the two people who had died hated her? It seemed that Qidong had played an important role in this. Yun Chujio retracted her gaze without a trace and closed her eyes to continue sleeping. It would be best if she could continue the beautiful dream that she had been interrupted earlier. Unfortunately, perhaps it was because the stage was too noisy, this fellow could not fall asleep even after brewing for a while. This fellow closed his eyes to reminisce about the beautiful dream from before. He did not know what was wrong with him, but he had a whim to see if there were really spirit stones under this seat. What if his dream came true? It had to be said that this fellow had nothing to do. This fellow squatted on the ground, took out a large kitchen knife, and began to dig. Lan Luofeng and Lan Luoyen, who were sitting next to her, were completely dumbfounded. "Little Jiao, we are here to participate in the Chongshao festival, not to dig. How free are you? Digging for fun when you have nothing to do." A lot of people's attention was on the performance on the high platform. Not many people saw Yun Chujio's behavior, but the guards in charge of keeping an eye on Yun Chujio saw it. The guard who was keeping an eye on Yun Chujio's behavior immediately changed his expression and hurriedly reported it to Qidong. Chapter 5395 Food Delivery. When Qidong heard the report from the guard, his face immediately turned ugly. The first thought that came to his mind was, could there be a spy in the Divine Devil Hall? However, he felt that it was unlikely. After all, everyone who knew about it had been planted with a spiritual imprint. There was no way for them to tell the truth. Then the question came. How did Yun Chujio know that there was a formation underground? Could it be that she was proficient in formations? It shouldn't be. This formation was an ancient formation that had already been lost. Even many of the mighty figures present did not discover it. How did she discover it? Chi Dong was anxious and angry. He wished that he could bring Yun Chujio over to interrogate her. However, he could not do that under the watchful eyes of everyone. Moreover, if that wretched girl only dug a few times out of her free time, if he mobilized too much, it would instead alert the snake. What should he do? It was best to think of a way to divert her attention and also take the opportunity to test if she had noticed anything. Thus, he gave a few orders to his subordinates. Very soon, people from the Divine Devil Hall sent a lot of tea and spirit fruits to the VIP seats and the seats of the major forces. In particular, the number of tea and spirit fruits given to the people of the Land family was obviously higher than the other forces. Seeing that there was food, Yun Chujio put away the large kitchen knife, wiped her hands, and picked up a piece of cake to eat. Although she felt that the Divine Devil Hall definitely had bad intentions in arranging this great firmament event, she felt that the Divine Devil Hall would not be so stupid as to openly poison them. As expected, she found that there was nothing fishy about the tea and spiritual fruits. Moreover, the taste was not bad. Chi Dong saw that Yun Chujio stopped digging and heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. It seemed that the stinky girl only dug because she had nothing better to do, causing him a false alarm. She would probably stop digging after this interruption. However, he soon saw that after the food was gone, the stinky girl actually continued digging. Chi Dong was so angry that he gritted his teeth and could only order his subordinates to send another batch of tea and spirit fruits to the Land family. Hei Shinjio saw that more food had been sent over. She hurriedly put away the large kitchen knife and started eating and drinking again. When the food was gone, she continued to dig. Chi Dong had no choice but to send food to the Lan family again and again. He was also afraid that Yun Chujio would get tired of eating, so he changed the way he sent food every time. At first, the members of the Lan family did not feel anything unusual, but later on, they found out that only the Lan family had this kind of treatment, so they were a little puzzled. This time, they were being too courteous by giving them food. Even the VIP seats were not as good as their treatment. Wasn't the Divine Devil Hall not on good terms with the Lan family? Why were they being treated so well? The other factions also found out and could not help but feel displeased. Was the Divine Devil Hall planning to rope in the Lan family? Chi Dong also felt that doing so seemed a little conspicuous and he had to think of another way. It was best to get that smelly girl to leave her seat so that she would not continue digging there. However, the time was not ripe yet, so he couldn't carry out the next step of the plan. How could he get her to leave her seat? When Chi Dong's gaze swept over the VIP seats, his eyes flashed with ruthlessness, and he immediately had an idea. Thus, after a performance, Chi Dong went up to the high platform. He cleared his throat, then he said, "Everyone, a few days ago, an unpleasant incident happened in Four Seasons City. Lu Yuanli and Lu Tianrui of the Thousand Feet sect in the Divine Enlightenment continent had a conflict with Yun Chujio of the Lan family. Later on, a group fight broke out, causing Lu Yuanli and Lu Tianrui to lose their lives on the spot. Although this matter was settled by my mediation, Elder Lu of the Thousand Feet sect still has some doubts about it. He wants to ask Yun Chujio some details in person. Please come up to the stage to put an end to this matter." Chapter 5396. I'm not feeling well. As soon as Chi Dong finished speaking, the crowd began to clamor. Some knew and some didn't. However, everyone felt that the Lan family was most likely going to be unlucky. With 2 people dead, how could the people of the Thousand Feet sect let it go? Previously, the Divine Devil Hall had said that they would explain things clearly to the Thousand Feet sect. Now, it seemed that it wasn't the case. No wonder the Divine Devil Hall had sent so many pastries and spiritual fruits to the Lan family. Could it be that they were guilty? The Lan family's patriarch had never thought that Chi Dong would come up with such a trick. They had clearly finished the negotiation that day, but today, he had said something vague. How outrageous! However, the current situation was different from that time. Besides the Thousand Feet sect, there were other forces in the Divine Enlightenment continent. If they were not careful, the Lan family might not exist anymore. Just as the patriarch of the Lan family was burning with anxiety, Yun Chujio put away her kitchen knife, wiped her hands, and left her seat slowly, walking toward the high platform. Seeing Yun Chujio's carefree look, the patriarch of the Lan family calmed down a lot of the panic and anxiety in his heart. Forget it. Although this troublemaker could cause trouble, he could always find a way to survive. He would wait and see. At this moment, Elder Lu of the Thousand Feet sect had already arrived on the high platform. This Elder Lu was the person who had previously stared at Yun Chujio with an unfriendly gaze. The dead Lu Yuanli was Elder Lu's grandson. Originally, Lu Yuanli should have rushed to the Chongshao continent with him yesterday, but Lu Yuanli insisted on coming here in advance. He felt that no one in the Chongshao continent would dare to provoke Lu Yuanli, hence, he agreed. Who would have thought that he would receive the news of his grandson being beaten to death? Although Qi Dong had told him what had happened, in Elder Lu's eyes, Yun Chujio was just an ant. It was a great fortune for his grandson to take a fancy to her. This bitch Yun Chujio actually dared to incite others to beat his grandson to death. She deserved to die. Therefore, he went up to the high platform and had already made a plan in his heart. As long as Yun Chujio went up the platform, he would directly beat her to death. He would not waste time talking to her. However, after Yun Chujio left her seat, her speed was about the same as a snail. It took her almost 15 minutes to reach the bottom of the high platform. The anger in Elder Lu's heart intensified. He clenched his right hand tightly and waited for Yun Chujio to go up the platform to attack. However, he heard a clear voice. Elder Lu, I'm not feeling well and don't have the strength to jump onto the stage. If you have any questions, just ask. I can hear it from below the stage anyway. Elder Lu never thought that Yun Chujio would say this. If she didn't step onto the stage, how would he deal with her? Could it be that he had lowered his status and jumped off the stage to kill her? Thus, he looked at Qi Dong. Qi Dong understood and immediately got someone to bring a ladder. Miss Yun, please. The guard said respectfully. Yun Chujio had no choice but to slowly climb up the ladder to the stage. Elder Lu's eyes flashed with killing intent. He raised his hand and before he used his spiritual power, he heard Yun Chujio scream and fall off the stage. Yun Chujio opened her eyes, with difficulty, and spat out a mouthful of blood. The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Heavens, isn't that Elder Lu too shameless? Yun Chujio just went up and was severely injured by him. That's right, he didn't even ask any questions, yet he attacked her. It's obvious that he's aiming for revenge. And he's even from the Divine Enlightenment continent. How shameless. No wonder his grandson was beaten to death. From the looks of it, his grandson isn't a good person either. You're right. His grandson provoked the public's anger because he molested Miss Yun. He deserves to be beaten to death. On the high platform, Elder Lu was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He wanted to kill that Yun Chujio, but he hadn't made a move yet, okay? This smelly girl was obviously cheating him. However, he had already raised his hand just now, and that smelly girl's acting was extremely realistic. Even if he denied it, no one would believe his words. He subconsciously looked at the VIP seats. The people in the VIP seats had always looked down on the Thousand Feet sect, which was a low-level sect. Now that they saw Elder Lu making a fool of himself, they looked at him with even more disdain. Seeing this, Elder Lu became even angrier. He shouted at the half-dead Yun Chujio, "You bitch! Stop pretending! I didn't even make a move just now. You killed my grandson. If you kill yourself now to apologize, then this matter will be settled. Otherwise, I will let your family be buried with my grandson." Elder Lu used his spiritual power to say these words. Those who were near the high platform felt their ears buzzing. They immediately shrank their necks and didn't dare to shout anymore. Although this Elder Lu wasn't a person, he was a person from the Divine Enlightenment continent. If they offended him, their lives might be finished. Yun Chujio swallowed a few pills before she struggled to stand up and said, "Elder Lu, as the saying goes, the heavens are watching. Your grandson has no conscience at all. He stole a man and a woman and provoked the public's anger. That's why he was beaten to death by the crowd. He deserved it. What does it have to do with me? I'm clearly a victim. I didn't ask you for compensation, so you should be secretly happy. You actually wanted to kill me to silence me. This is really an eye-opener. Even if you want to take revenge, you should look for the Divine Devil Hall. After all, they were negligent in their duties and didn't maintain the order in Four Seasons City, which resulted in such a bitter result. Or do you bully the weak and fear the strong? You don't dare to seek justice from the Divine Devil Hall and instead bully a weak little girl like me? Elder Lu's old face turned red from Yun Chujio's words. He was so embarrassed that he roared angrily, "It's your good fortune that my grandson likes you. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Omicron, you should be happy and obedient. If you hadn't argued with him first, there wouldn't have been anything after that. Therefore all of this was caused by you. You deserve to die." Yun Chujio spat out a mouthful of blood again. She showed an extremely angry expression. "Elder Lu, what are you talking about? You don't deserve to be a human. Who does your grandson like, and who should be happy and obedient? It's true that our Chongshao continent is indeed a low-level continent, but we are humans, not ants that your grandson can toy with. And we are not toys that can be insulted by others. Moreover, I believe that the other people in the Divine Enlightenment continent are all people of noble character, and no one would agree with what you just said. Your grandsons and grandsons are simply a disgrace to the Divine Enlightenment continent. You actually still have the face to talk nonsense on stage. If I were you, I would directly smack myself to death so that I wouldn't have the face to meet my ancestors. As soon as Yun Chujio finished speaking, someone immediately echoed, "Right? Miss Yun is right. This old fart is really too much of a bully. His own grandson is flirting with a lady, yet he still has the face to boast shamelessly on stage. He really doesn't have any sense of shame. Does he think that he's great just because he's from the Divine Enlightenment continent? Does he think that he can insult us as he pleases? Beat him up. Beat him up. Beat him to death." For a moment, the crowd became excited. Rotten eggs, rotten persimmons, and so on were all thrown at Elder Lu on the stage. Although he had set up a spiritual energy barrier and these things did not hit him, such humiliation also made his eyes red and his face ferocious. He looked coldly at the weak Yun Chujio below the stage. His heart was filled with killing intent. Since he had already embarrassed himself, he might as well kill this bitch to avenge his grandson. Thinking of this, Elder Lu walked to the edge of the stage and jumped down. Yun Chujio was not a fool, so she naturally would not wait at the same place. This guy had already entered the crowd when Elder Lu walked to the edge of the stage. Because there were too many people, Elder Lu had no way to catch He Xinjiu. Instead, because of this incident, the scene was in chaos. The faces of the people in the VIP seats were a little ugly. This great firmament event looked like a farce. Palace Master Long of the Godly Demon Palace also frowned and took out a voice transmission talisman to scold Qi Dong. Qi Dong explained the reason, and Palace Master Long's face became even gloomier. He said, "No matter what, let's settle this matter first. As for Yun Chujio, you can think of another way." Qi Dong had no choice but to personally stop Elder Lu. He comforted him with a few words and finally persuaded him to return to the VIP seats. Elder Lu was about to explode with anger. Although the 1,000 Feet sect was a low-level sect in the Divine Enlightenment continent, it was still 100 times stronger than the ants in the Chongshao continent. However, he had suffered such humiliation today. It was truly infuriating. That bitch Yun Chujio, he would kill her sooner or later. Seeing that Elder Lu had returned to the VIP seats, Yun Chujio, weakly, walked up to Qi Dong and said, "Protector Qi Dong, didn't you promise that you would handle this matter well? TSK, your ability to do things is really worrisome. Could it be that something has gone wrong in the Chongshao convention as well? I think you should take a look at Snavel." Si Omicron Imro Alpha Pi D Alpha S Nu Omicron V Epsilon Elm Chi Dong immediately understood this fellow's intention. He was trying to extort him again. However, he thought about it and took this opportunity to transfer her out of her seat, so he said, "Miss Yun, this matter was indeed handled improperly by me. How about this? I will compensate you with 1 million upper-grade spirit stones, and then move your seat to the first row of the VIP seats. What do you think?" Only the ancestor of the Lan family, Master Liaowu, and the others were qualified to sit in the first row of the VIP seats. Not only did they have a good view, but they also had an uninterrupted supply of refreshments and spirit fruits. Although Yun Chujio was suspicious that Qi Dong was so easy to talk to, she did not dare to make a big deal out of it, so she nodded her head and agreed. After seeing that Yun Chujio had received 1 million upper-grade spiritual stones, Qi Dong immediately ran to the VIP seats, jumping up and down in anger. What happened to breaking his old waist? What happened to spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood from his heart? It was all a lie. He finally heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Yun Chujio eating the snacks obediently after arriving at the VIP seats. She did not dig any more soil. As long as she persisted until the afternoon, she could carry out the next step of the plan. Yun Chujio's seat was at the end of the first row of the VIP seats. Beside her was the head of the Qi family, Qi Anbang. Between the two of them was a small coffee table with tea, snacks, and spiritual fruits on it. Ever since Hei Xinjiu sat down, her mouth had not stopped eating. Not only that, she was also shamelessly stuffing her food into her storage ring. A hint of disdain flashed across Qi Anbang's eyes, but he didn't say anything. Rho alpha pi d alpha s nu omicron v epsilon L. The corner of the Divine Devil Hall guard's mouth twitched. He had seen it clearly just now. This person was eating and taking. What did it have to do with Patriarch Qi? However, he still answered respectfully and then sent over a serving of tea and spiritual fruits. Qi Anbang endured it and didn't say anything. He was already old, so he didn't need to argue with a junior over such a small matter. Moreover, there were many people from the Divine Enlightenment continent sitting in the VIP seats, so it was better to let things go. However, he never expected that Yun Chujio would use the same excuse again and again to ask the guard to send tea and snacks over and over again. On the 5th time, Qi Anbang couldn't take it anymore. He said to Yun Chujio, "If you like tea and snacks from the Divine Devil Hall, you can ask them for more. Why do you have to use me as a reason?" "Senior Qi, I have no choice. I'm timid and thin-skinned. I don't dare to talk to you. I can only use this method to attract your attention," Yun Chujio said shyly. The corner of Qi Anbang's eyes twitched. Timid? Thin-skinned? She was sure that these words had something to do with her? "What do you want to talk to me about?" "Senior Qi, I want to ask why Sister Tianxiao didn't come over. I wanted to visit her, but I was delayed by something," Yun Chujio asked with concern. She had looked around earlier, but didn't find Qi Tianxiao and Mu Zixia. It was probably because the Qi and Mu families didn't want them to appear at the Chongshao banquet and cause unnecessary trouble. When Qi Anbang heard her ask about Qi Tianxiao, his expression did not look too good. He said coldly, "Tianxiao is not feeling well. She is resting at the inn and has not come over. I think you should take a look at Snavel." Kamayan Chujio nodded, then sighed and said, "Sister Tianqiao's life is really tough. She has encountered such a troublesome matter. When Lu Yuanli and Lu Tianrui threatened Sister Tianxiao, did you not ask the Divine Devil Hall for help? That bastard, Qi Dong, didn't help?" Qi Anbang's expression became even more unsightly. He had told Qi Dong about this matter at the first moment, but Qi Dong had brushed it off. He didn't pay attention to this matter at all, and he didn't even tell him about the 1,000 Feet sect's background. If he had known that the 1,000 Feet sect was just an unrated sect in the Divine Enlightenment continent and didn't have the right to decide on the qualifications to ascend, how could he have abandoned Qi Tianqiao's innocence? If Yun Chujio hadn't tricked those people to beat Lu Yuanli and Lu Tianrui to death, perhaps the Qi family would have become a laughingstock in the Chongshao continent. Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of Qi Anbang's unsightly expression, and her eyes flickered as she continued, "So, we have to keep our eyes open for this alliance. I think the Zen sect is much stronger than the Divine Devil Hall. Not only do they have a conscience, but they are also protected by the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Qi Anbang glanced at her and naturally knew what she meant. He snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Yun Chujio picked up a spirit fruit and took a bite. She said faintly, "Senior Qi, you probably don't know, right? The Zen sect and the Zen sect have formed an alliance." Qi Anbang's body trembled. He stared at Yun Chujio and asked, "What did you say?" Yun Chujio took another bite of the spiritual fruit and said word by word, "The bitter Zen sect has formed an alliance with the Zen sect." Qi Anbang looked at Yun Chujio in astonishment and felt that he was hearing things. Weren't the Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect sworn enemies? Previously, they had been at loggerheads at the 10,000 Buddha's grand meeting, and several disciples had died. How could they form an alliance? This Yun Chujio must be spouting nonsense. Even so, his gaze still fell on Master Liaowu and Master Xianhui. The two of them sat close to each other. There was no interaction between the two of them. It seemed that there was no difference from before. However, if one observed carefully, they could still see some clues. Since they sat down, Master Liaowu did not provoke Master Liaowu as usual. He was so silent that it was as if he was a different person. Moreover, for some reason, Xianhui, who was originally filled with hostility, looked much more peaceful today. Could it be that what Yun Chujio said was true? "What you said is true. How did you know?" When Qi Tianbang asked this question, he stared at Yun Chujio closely, wanting to observe her reaction. Yun Chujio put away the fruit core that she had finished chewing and said slowly, "Of course it's true. As for why I know, the reason is very simple. I am their disciple." Qi Anbang was stunned for a moment, then sneered, "Little girl, even if you are making up a lie, you should make it sound more convincing. Do you mean to say that Master Liaowu and Master Xianhui accepted you as their disciple at the same time?" Yun Chujio nodded very naturally. "Yes, you don't believe me?" Qi Anbang said in his heart, of course he didn't believe it. This was simply impossible. How could Master Liaowu and Master Xianhui accept a female disciple? Not to mention taking this little girl as their disciple at the same time. How many disciples did they need to do such a thing? Yun Chujio guessed his thoughts. She stood up and walked in front of Master Liaowu. "Master, I vomited a few mouthfuls of blood just now. Please give me some good pills." Master Liaowu was angry and amused, but he still threw her a bottle of pills. The others were not calm. "I think you should take a look at Snavel." "What?" Yun Chujio just called Master Liaowu Master? What did she mean? Master Liaowu took her as a disciple? Why did Master Liaowu take a little girl as a disciple? However, everyone knew that Yun Chujio was on good terms with the Zen sect. Although they were a little surprised, it was still acceptable. However, they never expected that Yun Chujio did not return to her seat immediately after receiving the pills. Instead, she said to Sect Master Xianhui, "Master, shouldn't you also express your gratitude?" Sect Master Xianhui glared at her. "Don't you know whether you are really injured or not?" However, he still handed a bottle of pills to Yun Chujio with a cold face. This time, everyone was completely in an uproar. Oh my God! Strange things happened every year, and there were a lot of them this year. Rho alpha pi d alpha s nu omicron v epsilon l. Was their imagination too weak, or was this matter too outrageous? Weren't the bitter Zen sect and the Zen sect sworn enemies? How could the two sect masters take Yun Chujio as their disciple at the same time? How could Yun Chujio have taken in both of them at the same time? Pui, take the two sect masters as her master. They had never heard of her being outstanding, and she came from a lower continent. How did she do it? Lan Luofeng, Lan Luoqing, and the others were completely dumbfounded. Heavens, they knew that little Nine was a pervert, but wasn't this too perverted? Mu Zian, Qi Tianhui, and the others were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Not only was Yun Chujio's cultivation level higher than theirs, but she had also become the disciple of Master Xianhui and Master Liaowu. The gap between them was getting bigger and bigger. "Senior Qi, my two masters are monks and keep a low profile. That's why they didn't show off their precious disciples. Do you believe me now? Qi Anbang felt as if he had been struck by lightning. On one hand, it was because of Yun Chujia's shamelessness. On the other hand, it seemed that the bitter Zen sect and the Zen sect had really formed an alliance. The patriarch of the Zhuang family and the patriarch of the Mu family, who were sitting next to Qi Anbang, had been listening attentively to their conversation. Their expressions were not much different from Qi Anbang's. They had never expected such a huge change. Once the bitter Zen sect and the Zen sect formed an alliance, the position of the Divine Devil Hall would immediately be unstable. Then, the question was, should they continue to form an alliance with the Divine Devil Hall? To be honest, they were not satisfied with the way the Divine Devil Hall handled things, especially with the matter of the 1,000 Feet sect this time. To the Divine Devil Hall, they were just accessories that could be discarded at any time. Once they were touched by their interests, they did not care about their lives at all. However, the matter was of great importance, and they could not make a decision right away. Therefore, the three of them had very complicated feelings in their hearts. Yun Chujio seemed to have no idea what kind of commotion her actions had caused. She crossed her legs and happily ate melon seeds. Yesterday, Sect Master Wu, Sect Master Xian Hui, and the three of them had already discussed it. They would find a suitable time to expose this matter. The reason for this was that, firstly, Master Xian Hui wanted to let the people of the 10,000 Buddhas Sacred Hall know that the Bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall had completely broken off, so as to avoid trouble in the future. Secondly, she wanted to take the opportunity to rope in the Qi family, Zhuang family, and Mu family. Thirdly, after the news spread, the Divine Devil Hall would surely be desperate and take a good look at their scheme. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Comfy news of the alliance between the Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect spread out instantly, so that the people didn't have the mood to watch the performance on the stage at all. They were all discussing animatedly. Qi Dong gritted his teeth. He knew that old bald donkey, Xian Hui, had an ulterior motive. She had indeed betrayed the Divine Devil Hall. She even said that she was going to ask for Buddhist teachings and that she was going to meditate. It was all nonsense. If he knew that Xian Hui had betrayed him because of him, he would probably die from anger. What made him even angrier was that Yun Chujio had a good talk with Qi Anbang. Could it be that she was going to turn the Qi family as well? If he had known this would happen, he would not have arranged for her to be in the guest seats. It was really too late to regret. It was all this stupid girl's fault for digging up the soil. Otherwise, how could there be such a mess? No, he could not let her continue to sow discord. Although there was still more than an hour before the time was up, it should not be too late. It was better to start the next step of the plan. Therefore, he went up to the high platform. Everyone, please be quiet. The previous program was just to liven up the atmosphere. Now, I will announce the conditions for obtaining the qualification to ascend. Hearing that, everyone immediately pricked up their ears. This was the key. Who did not want to obtain the qualification to ascend? Yun Chujio also put away the melon seeds in her hand. She wanted to see what the Divine Demon Hall was planning. She always felt that the people from the Divine Enlightenment continent were here for something else. What were they up to? Qi Dong saw that everyone was looking at him, and a faint light flashed in his eyes as he continued. There are only 10 spots, so it's inevitable that there will be competition. However, if we were to compete in the arena, it would be too time-consuming, so we thought of a more stable method. Yun Chujio sneered in her heart. It seemed that the fox's tail was about to be revealed. She wanted to hear what this stable method was. Qi Dong continued, the Four Seasons mountain range is not only rich in spiritual energy, but also contains many heavenly treasures and earthly treasures. Among them, four are the rarest: the withered bone Ganoderma of the spring dawn peak, the winter ice plum of the midsummer peak, the green jade sprout of the golden autumn peak, and the flaming vermilion lotus of the winter peak. Presumably, you can also see from the names that these four things are in stark contrast to the climate of the mountain where they are located. Because of this, these four spiritual treasures only appear once every 1,000 years, and the next 10 days will be the time for them to appear. These 4 spiritual treasures are not only very rare in the Chongshao continent, but they are also very rare in the Divine Enlightenment continent. Therefore, those who can find all 4 spiritual treasures can directly obtain the qualification to ascend. If there are more than 10 people, the results will be calculated according to the number of people. If there aren't enough people, then there's nothing to be done. It can only be said that the opportunity isn't enough. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Was it that simple? If it was just to find these 4 items, why didn't the people of the Divine Demon Hall go and look for them? Why didn't the people of the Divine Enlightenment continent go and look for them? Many people had the same question as Yun Chujio. However, before they could ask, Qidong said with a smile, "Why don't you go and look for them? I know that you all feel that something is a bit strange. Why is it that our Divine Demon Hall didn't hide such a good thing and even openly said it? Of course, there's something hidden. First of all, the places where the 4 numinous treasures grow are quite special. People from the Divine Enlightenment continent can't enter, so the distinguished guests from the Divine Enlightenment continent can't go there in person. Secondly, our Divine Demon Hall naturally wants to take this good opportunity for ourselves. However, the places where the 4 numinous treasures grow are very secretive, and it's very difficult to find them. Most importantly, only young people under the age of 40 who have reached the 7th level of the extreme spirit realm or above have the chance to enter. Our Divine Demon Hall doesn't have that many qualified people. Moreover, as the saying goes, we share blessings and hardships together. This is why our Divine Devil Hall has organized this great firmament event. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Everyone immediately exploded. The reason was very simple. The vast majority of people did not meet the requirements Qidong had mentioned. Then, wouldn't they have come in vain? The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. Was this really the case, or did they deliberately set such conditions? The key question now was, should she participate? However, only by participating could she obtain the qualifications to ascend, and only then would she be able to foil the Divine Devil Hall's conspiracy. Yun Chujio weighed the pros and cons and decided to participate. The path of cultivation was originally a life and death struggle with the heavens, and even the Tian Dao couldn't kill her, so what was there to be afraid of? The 7th level of the extreme spiritual realm was not considered a particularly high cultivation level, but it was limited to those below 40 years old. In this way, the number of people who agreed with the conditions was few and far between. In total, there were only 35 people. The Mu family, Qi family, and Zhuang family should have gotten wind of this beforehand, so they had gathered quite a number of people in advance. There were 14 people from their 3 families in total, which accounted for almost half of the total number of people. There were 10 people from the Divine Devil Hall. All of them wore purple masks on their faces. There were 5 people from the Bitter Zen sect and 5 people from the Zen sect. There was 1 person from the Land family. The Bitter Zen sect and the Zen sect actually had more disciples who met the conditions, but they didn't know the conditions to enter the 4 Seasons mountain range beforehand, so they didn't follow. As for the Lan family, Lan Luoqing and Lan Luomu were only at the 6th level of the extreme spiritual realm, and Lan Luochen wasn't here, so only Yun Chujio met the conditions. Qidong said some encouraging words, which were nothing more than encouraging them with the qualification to ascend, so that they could go all out to find the 4 numinous treasures. Qidong gave them a map with the most likely locations for the 4 spiritual treasures on it. The people of the Divine Enlightenment continent who were sitting in the VIP seats looked at them with disdain. A low-grade continent was a low-grade continent, and it was truly lacking in talent. They didn't know if these few dozen people would be able to find 4 spirit treasures. If they couldn't find them, wouldn't they have wasted their trip here? At the thought of having to wait here for 10 days, everyone couldn't help but feel a little irritated. Right at this moment, Qidong said, "Everyone, we can all see the performance of these young heroes in the designated areas through the shadow stones. In addition, our Divine Devil Hall has also set up a gambling game. If we can successfully guess who is qualified to ascend, not only will we be able to split the gambling money equally, but our Divine Devil Hall will also be able to increase the prize money by an additional 10 million high-grade spirit stones." As Qi spoke, he took out a shadow stone. The shadow stone grew with the wind and instantly grew to several hundred zhang in size. It stood erect on the high platform. 35 names appeared on it. They were the people who had entered the Four Seasons mountain range to search for treasures. Yun Chujio saw her name at a glance and hung it high up in the first place. Everyone immediately ran to a few betting spots set up by the Divine Devil Hall to place their bets. The vast majority of them placed their bets on Yun Chujio. I think you should take a look at Snavel. The reason was very simple. This Yun Chujio was the disciple of Master Liaowu and Master Xianhui. Moreover, her cultivation was at the second level of spirit extinguisher. No matter how one looked at it, she was stronger than the others. Yun Chujio watched as the amount of money placed behind her name on the shadow stone increased. It was obvious that it was much higher than the others. This fellow was not quite used to it. Based on past experience, shouldn't many people not have high hopes for her? Why was she so confident in her this time? Could it be that she had made a comeback? However, this fellow thought of an important matter and immediately went in front of Sect Master Wu and Master Xianhui. Masters, your disciple is about to enter. Shouldn't you two send me some good things to protect my life? Master Liaowu thought, good things? All the good things of the Zen sect were stolen by you, okay? What good things did he have? However, after thinking for a while, he still took out 2 defensive immortal artifacts and handed them to her. Although Xianhui did not have any feelings for Yun Chujio, she had already fallen out with the Divine Devil Hall. He naturally did not want anything to happen to Yun Chujio. Otherwise, the matter of forming an alliance with the Zen sect might change. Therefore, he secretly gave Yun Chujio something. When Yun Chujio saw it, she was a little dumbfounded. What Xianhui gave her was the relic of old monk Wang Shu. Xianhui lowered her voice and said, Fozi said that Master Wang Su is the reincarnation of Arhat Longbrows. His relic will definitely protect you. However, I'm only lending it to you. You have to return it to me after you come out. Do you hear me? Yun Chujio suddenly felt like she had dug a hole and buried herself. However, she could not refuse, so she could only nod and agree. At this moment, Qi indicated that everyone could enter the Four Seasons mountain range. Ji Su moved to Yun Chujio's side and said, Junior sister Yun, senior brother and I will follow you. You have to protect us. Yun Chujio nodded at Ji Kong and Ji Su. The other members of the Lan family did not meet the requirements, so she could team up with them. While the 3 of them were chatting, Yun Chujio felt a few hostile gazes. Yun Chujio turned her head and saw Mu Zian, Qi Tianhui, and the others hurriedly looking away. Yun Chujio chuckled and said to them, If you dare to look at me like that again, I'll kill you. Mu Zian was angry and afraid, but when she thought that they had more people, she felt more confident. She said coldly, Yun Chujio, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Let's see who will die in the end. Yun Chujio curled her lips. So what if the deer dies in your hands? They'll just snatch it from you. Just you wait. Mu Zian said and left with the group. Mu Zian had never seen such a shameless person. When she thought about it again, it was because of Yun Chujio that Lan Luochen had been avoiding her. He wished that he could tear Yun Chujio into pieces. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with her. Such a stupid and weak white lotus flower could be crushed to death by her in a matter of minutes. There was still a use for her to stay, so she would be allowed to prance around for a few days first. At this time, the other 3 Zen sect members also followed behind Yun Chujio consciously. Although their memories of Yun Chujio being the Buddha's candle had been erased, Yun Chujio's abduction of the Buddha's candle. They did not forget the matter of turning the jade glass Bodhi tree into a bald spot. Moreover, Yun Chujio was now the disciple of Master Liaowu, the chief disciple of the Zen sect's Ji generation. They should follow her. The 5 Zen sect disciples had different thoughts. Yuan Ji originally wanted to follow Yun Chujio, but the other 4 people did not agree. Yuan Tong snorted, This Yun Chujio must have used some kind of trick to get the sect master to take her as a disciple. Why should we listen to her arrangement? Besides, Senior brother Yuan Qing and I are at the second level of the Red Lotus, the same as her second level of the Spirit Extinguisher. Why should we follow her? Yes. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Yuan Qing echoed, that's right. Although the sect master seems to be on good terms with the Zen sect, this matter hasn't been announced yet. The people of the Zen sect may not be sincere to us, so it's better for us to separate. Besides, the 4 spiritual treasures grow on the 4 peaks. It's not good for us to squeeze together. Hearing that, Yuan Ji could only nod at Yun Chujio and follow Yuan Tong to the Spring Dawn Peak. Mu Zian and the others went to the Midsummer Peak, while the people of the Divine Devil Hall went to the Golden Autumn Peak. Yun Chujio had no other choice but to lead the people of the Zen sect to the Winter Peak. Ji Su mumbled, Junior Sister Yun, these people must have done it on purpose. Those 3 peaks are all stronger than Winter Peak. Who doesn't know that Winter Peak is bone-chilling? How shameless! Yun Chujio chuckled and said, anyway, we have to go to all 4 peaks. What's the difference between going to one first? Ji Su thought it made sense and asked again, Junior Sister Yun, do you think we can find 4 numinous treasures? Yun Chujio smiled faintly. Yes, Roel friend Alphares nu Omicron v Epsilon L. Junior Sister Yun, is it really good for you to be so confident? After a dead silence, Ji Kong said in a deep voice, Junior Sister Yun, don't be too optimistic. Those 4 numinous treasures will definitely be difficult to find. Moreover, there will be guardian beasts around these heavenly treasures. It's better for us to be careful. Ji Su and the other 3 nodded in agreement. Yun Chujio said with a smile, Senior brother Ji Kong, what you said makes sense. I think so too, but if I say I can't, it would be a downer. Ji Kong and the others, the 6 of them soon entered the range of the Winter Peak. The deeper they went, the colder the temperature became. Because the Winter Peak grew plants that could withstand the cold, it was full of vitality. Ji Su took out the map and looked at it while trembling. He said with a trembling voice, this fiery vermilion lotus might appear in the cold spring at the peak. I think it will freeze to death before we reach the peak. Yun Chujio saw that the other 4 were also frozen to the point that their lips turned blue. She thought for a moment and said, it is already dark now. Let's find a place to get warm first. We will continue our journey tomorrow morning. Ji Kong frowned. Junior Sister Yun, there's only a total of 10 days. If we don't hurry, I'm afraid we won't be able to gather all 4 numinous treasures. Yun Chujio waved her hand indifferently. Blessed people don't need to be busy. There's no rush. Let's find a place to sleep first. Ji Kong saw that she insisted, so he could only agree. The 6 people found a place with a leeward wind and lit a bonfire to eat hot pot. Because Ji Su and the others were here, they ate a vegetarian hot pot. Although the taste was not particularly good, it dispelled a lot of the chill. Everyone was very satisfied with their meal. After eating, Yun Chujio arranged for Ji Su and the others to take turns to watch the night. However, this guy went into his omnipotent little tent and slept soundly. At this moment, everyone in the venue was focused on staring at the shadow stone. Although they could not hear what they were saying, their actions could be seen clearly. They saw that the other 3 teams were trying their best to hurry on their way while Yun Chujio's team was eating hot pot without a care in the world. Now that they were sleeping soundly, they were really too unambitious. The people who had bet on Yun Chujio were filled with regret. If they had known that Yun Chujio was so unambitious, they would not have bet on her no matter what. I think you should take a look at Snavel. Moreover, they only knew now that among the 35 people, many of them had the same cultivation level as Yun Chujio, or even higher than her. They were really blind. In order to stop the losses, everyone scolded Yun Chujio for being a troublemaker while they quickly went to bet on the others. Yun Chujio sneezed a few times in succession and muttered in her heart, "Who the fuck is scolding this fairy? Tired of living?" This fellow always believed that sharpening a knife would not delay the work of chopping firewood. She still needed to rest when she needed to. Moreover, she felt that the so-called 4 treasures were just a gimmick. The Divine Devil Hall definitely had other intentions, so there was no rush. This fellow slept until dawn. If it was not for Ji Kong's constant urging, this fellow would probably still be able to continue sleeping. Because he had not slept enough, this fellow's face was gloomy. Ji Su was so frightened that he did not dare to speak casually anymore. The further they went in, the colder it got. The snow on the ground was getting thicker and thicker. Everyone was kicking and kicking. They had suffered a lot. Why don't we just give up? I didn't want the qualification to ascend anyway. After all, even if I ascend, I'm still a weakling. Why don't we just rely on our own abilities to ascend? Yun Chujio glanced at Ji Su. Previously, the Buddha's candle had given him and Ji Kong a drop of wax oil. After they had undergone purification, their cultivation speed had increased by a lot. Now, the two of them were already at the second level of the Red Buddha's lotus. Ji Su was a little scared by her gaze. Just as he was about to say something, Yun Chujio said, "You're a weakling and not." Ji Su, "Junior sister Yun, you won't have any friends chatting like this. Do you understand?" Chapter 5406. Based on ability, although Yun Chujio had dissed Ji Su, she knew that this could not go on. She had to think of a way. Because there was a small flame on her right palm, she did not feel cold. However, Ji Su and the others could not stand it any longer. Yun Chujio had originally planned to catch a few demonic beasts as a means of transportation. However, along the way, she did not see any traces of demonic beasts. She could not help but feel a little strange. Could it be that the Divine Devil Hall had used the same trick again, capturing these demonic beasts to create some evil formation? However, she thought about it again. There was a shadow stone outside that was broadcasting the situation here. The Divine Devil Hall would not be so stupid. Then, where did the demonic beasts go? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and used her spiritual sense to say to the Goeibatsao in her danton, "Summon a few demonic beasts. Don't have too many, just a few will do." The Goeibatsao shook its leaves, feeling a little unhappy. It had been a long time since the baby had gone out for a stroll. It seemed that it could only rely on itself. A moment later, Ji Su noticed that the ground was shaking, and even the snow on the trees was starting to fall. He immediately cried out in alarm, "Not good. Could it be that the earth dragon is going to turn over? Or is there going to be an avalanche?" Just as Yun Chujio was about to speak, she heard an earth-shaking beast roar coming from afar. In the distance, there was a layer of snow and mist. It was obviously caused by many demonic beasts. Yun Chujio was so angry that she was twitching. She scolded, "Go Weiba, do you want to die? I'll let you summon a few of them, and you can fucking create a beast hide for me." Goeibatsao pretended to be cute in a wronged manner, indicating that it was not intentional. However, it was proud in its heart. Humph, only then would the stupid girl let it go out to fight. Only then would it have a chance to save up some money and then go for a stroll. In any case, when the time came, it would hide in the snow and no one would notice it. Sigh, how could it be so smart? It even had to admire itself. Yun Chujio didn't expect Goeibatsao to play tricks at this time. She really thought that it had accidentally attracted so many demon beasts, so she quickly made it stop emitting its scent. Even so, there were still more than 10 huge demonic beasts that rushed to the front of the 6 people. Ji Su said with a bitter face, "Junior sister Yun, what should we do? These demonic beast levels are almost the same as ours, but their numbers are twice as many as ours. Let's run for our lives." The Goeibatsao in Yun Chujio's dantian kept acting cute, signaling Yun Chujio to let it out. However, Yun Chujio acted as if she didn't see it and said to the demonic beasts, "I've always been a vegetarian, so I don't want to kill. You guys obediently establish a temporary contract with me. I won't treat you unfairly." Goeibatsao pursed her lips in her heart when she heard that. This stinky girl was simply too shameless. How could she be a vegetarian when she had no meat to eat? She was lying. The demonic beasts began to howl. Apparently, they felt that Yun Chujio's words were overestimating herself. They had the absolute advantage, so what right did this stinky girl have to threaten? Yes, they got it, she had to rely on her ability. The demonic beast cries came to an abrupt stop, because they were stunned to discover that Yun Chujia's spiritual power had increased greatly. It seemed that her cultivation was not just a little bit higher than theirs, she was simply crushing them. Humans were indeed sinister. This wretched girl had actually concealed her strength. If they had known that she was so strong, they would not have rushed over. They really regretted it. What kind of joke was this? This wretched girl was so much stronger than them. If they ran, they would probably be broken in the leg, right? Ji-Su and the others felt the soaring spiritual power on Yun Chujia's body and were also shocked. This junior sister Yun was simply a pervert. Chapter 5407 Supreme Delicacy. Ji-Su asked weakly, "Junior sister Yun, what level is your cultivation base at exactly?" "It's only level 6, Yun Chujio said lightly, while at the same time recovering her cultivation base at level 2. Ji-Su and the other three looked at each other, and two words popped up in their hearts at the same time: pervert. Yun Chujio ignored them, but swept her gaze towards those demonic beasts. What could the demonic beasts do? Other than submitting, there was no other way. Humans were not the only ones who could submit and adapt. The demonic beasts also knew the principle of being wise when the time was right. Thus, Yun Chujio successfully established a temporary contract with the demonic beasts. Although the people on the square could not hear what Yun Chujio and the others said, they still saw Yun Chujio establishing a temporary contract with the demonic beasts in the end. They immediately exploded. Oh my God, what happened? Why did those demon beasts establish a temporary contract with Yun Chujio after Yun Chujio said a few words? Yeah, this is too strange. Logically speaking, those demon beasts should have attacked them, but why did they willingly establish a temporary contract with Yun Chujio? Did you guys forget an important question? Yun Chujio actually contracted 13 demon beasts at the same time. Isn't her spiritual sense too powerful? Some of the people from the Divine Enlightenment continent in the VIP seats raised their eyebrows slightly, while others remained unmoved. There were countless geniuses in the Divine Enlightenment continent, and that Yun Chujio didn't have the qualifications to interest them. At this moment, Yun Chujio and the others were already sitting on the backs of the 6 demonic beasts, and they were heading toward the top of the mountain. Yun Chujio put the remaining 7 demonic beasts into her spirit beast bag, and then asked them, "We haven't encountered any demonic beasts on our way here. What's going on?" One of the 4 Seasons wild bear said, "The peak of the cold spring temperature has risen sharply recently. Inside the Lai Yanzhu Lian has grown a bud, estimated to bloom soon. Although we don't have the ability to snatch the Lai Yanzhu Lian, when the Lai Yanzhu Lian is in full bloom, it will gather spiritual energy, which is very beneficial to our cultivation. So we all gathered at the peak and waited for the Lai Yanzhu Lian to bloom." Yun Chujio nodded her head. So it was like this. She thought it was the god and devil temple to make the Yao moths. However, listening to it say so, the peak must have gathered a lot of demon beasts, and there are high-level demon beasts. Want to pick Lai Yen Golden Lotus? The difficulty is not ordinary big ah. Yun Chujio thought suddenly a blank, asked, "That Lai Yen how many lotus? We'll open a few flowers." Lai Yen was stunned for a moment and then said, "Lai Yen Golden Lotus is so precious, so there is only one. Moreover, it only blooms once every 1,000 years." Yun Chujio's face was slightly cold. What about the dry bone Ganoderma of Spring Dawn Peak, the frost plum of Midsummer Peak, and the green jade sprouts of Golden Autumn Peak? How many are there? Of course there is only one. If there are many of these natural treasures, then they are not worth much. Lai Yen replied. The coldness on Yun Chujio's face became even colder. Was the Divine Devil Hall planning to let them kill each other to sow discord and reap the benefits? However, she felt that if that was the case, the Divine Devil Hall's conspiracy was too shallow. Then what was their purpose? Forget it. No matter what, they had to think of a way to get the Lai Yanzhu Lian first. With the demonic beast's help, they arrived at the peak in less than 4 hours. The peak was densely packed with demonic beasts. The deeper they went, the higher the level of the demonic beasts. When they saw Yun Chujio and the others on the back of the 4 Seasons Violent Bear and the rest, Their eyes revealed a greedy look. In order to absorb the spiritual energy of the Lai Yen vermilion lotus when it was in full bloom, these demonic beasts had been waiting here for several days. They had basically not eaten anything. They had achieved a short-term peace for the sake of their common goal. No one would attack anyone. Therefore, in their eyes, Yun Chujio and the other three were the most delicious food. Chapter 5408. Han Quan Ji Su saw the drooling eyes of the demonic beasts and the saliva on their mouths. He was so scared that he almost fell off the back of the demonic beasts. He kept chanting the name of Buddha silently, hoping that Yun Chujio, this pervert, could think of a way to turn the situation around. He still wanted to become the leader of the 10,000 Buddhas temple. He did not want to be eaten by these demonic beasts. Ji Kong and the others' faces were also pale. There were hundreds of demonic beasts gathered here. They were no match for these demonic beasts no matter what. The 6 demonic beasts carrying Yun Chujio and the others stopped a few hundred feet away from the demonic beasts. They were not stupid. Now, they were like grasshoppers on the same rope as these humans. If they got closer, they would not even be able to save their lives. Yun Chujio sat on the back of the 4 Seasons violent bear. She rolled her eyes and shouted, "Is there anyone here who can decide? Come out and have a chat. I have a way to help you obtain the Lai Yen Cinnabar Lotus." Yun Chujio's words immediately caused the demonic beasts present to explode. What? This human said that he had a way to obtain the Lai Yen Cinnabar Lotus? Impossible, right? Lai Yen grew in the middle of the cold spring. The cold spring was already extremely hot and there was no way to approach it. Previously, there was a fire-type demonic beast who thought that his skin was tough and he wasn't afraid of the heat. However, the moment he entered the cold spring, he turned into steam. What could this little girl do? Although the demonic beasts thought that Yun Chujio was talking nonsense, Lai Yan's allure was too great. In the end, there were still a few of the highest-ranked demonic beasts who walked out. Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Dear demonic beasts, I have a way to obtain the Lai Yen vermilion lotus. After the deed is done, I only need 1 petal. You can split the rest equally. What do you think?" The few high-ranked demonic beasts agreed immediately. The reason why they were so happy was because they felt that the initiative was completely in their hands. If this little girl could not obtain the Lai Yen vermilion lotus, then they would eat her companion. If she could obtain the blazing fire vermilion lotus, then once she obtained the blazing fire vermilion lotus, they would even leave Lai Yen and Lai Yen behind. A little girl at the 2nd level of spirit extinguisher, no matter how much she tried, she would not be able to stir up any waves. Because the few high-level demonic beasts agreed, Yun Chujio and the other 3 got off the demonic beasts and walked towards Han Quan. Jesus' legs were a little weak. Although the demonic beasts did not attack them, but no matter who was coveted by so many demonic beasts, they would still be terrified. Of course, there were exceptions, such as the pervert Yun Chujio. Her leisurely footsteps were like taking a stroll in her own backyard. There was not the slightest hint of fear. Ji Su kept chanting the name of Buddha in his heart. Amitabha, Amitabha, Buddha bless. He hoped that junior sister Yun was not courting death but was confident. He did not want to die. A moment later, Yun Chujio arrived near the cold spring. Looking at the scene before her, Yun Chujio could not help but click her tongue in wonder. The cold spring was still bone-chilling. There were even piles of white snow. However, the cold spring was boiling with heat waves and filled with mist. In the mist, one could vaguely see a lotus flower in bud. It should be the Lai Yen vermilion lotus. The Lai Yen vermilion lotus not only had a red bud, but its stem and leaves were also fiery red. It was very fitting for its name. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed, and she took out the map that the Divine Devil Hall had given to everyone. The map was not drawn on paper, but on a jade slip. The jade slip in her hand fell into the cold spring accidentally. The moment the jade slip touched the surface of the water, it turned into steam. Chapter 5409 was in full bloom. Yun Chujio sighed in frustration and said to Ji Su, "Lend me your map." Ji Su was puzzled as to why Yun Chujio was looking at the map at this time, But he still handed the map to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio was careless again, and the map fell into the cold spring again. Yun Chujio had no choice but to ask Ji Kong to give her the map as well. Ji Su kindly suggested from the side, "Junior sister Yun, why don't you step back a little and don't?" Before he could finish his sentence, Ji Kong's jade slip also fell into the cold spring. Ji's face stiffened. He seemed to have understood one thing. Junior sister Yun did it on purpose. But why did she do this? Before Ji Su could think of a reason, the other three people's map jade slips had also been accidentally dropped into the cold spring by Yun Chujio. Almost at the same time, the images of Yun Chujio and the others on the shadow stone outside disappeared, leaving only pitch-black darkness. Everyone immediately exploded. What was going on? Some smart people quickly reacted. The reason why the shadow stone could see the images of Yun Chujio and the others was most likely related to the map jade slip. Now that the map jade slip of Yun Chujio and the others had fallen into the cold spring and turned into steam, they naturally could not see anything. However, was Yun Chujio doing this on purpose or not? Who would believe that she had fallen into the cold spring 6 jade slips in a row? But if she said that she did it on purpose, then what was her purpose? It was really hard to understand. Could it be that she was scared silly by those demon beasts? Qi Dong frowned and felt a little uneasy. He felt that things were going to deviate from his original plan. However, on second thought, even if he couldn't see what Yun Chujio was doing now, once she and the others could see it, it shouldn't be a big deal. Moreover, she was just a little girl, so she couldn't stir up much trouble. As for the people of the Divine Enlightenment continent who were in the VIP seats, they didn't have any reaction because they thought that Yun Chujio was most likely mentally ill and would be eaten by those demon beasts very soon. After Yun Chujio, accidentally, dropped the 6 map jade slips into the cold spring, she took out an egg from her storage ring and threw it into the cold spring. As soon as the egg touched the water surface, it turned into steam. The high-level demonic beasts let out a disdainful roar. They were obviously mocking Yun Chujio for overestimating herself. They wanted to see how this little girl could obtain the Lai Yen Zhu Lian. Yun Chujio ignored the ridicule of the high-level demonic beasts. She took out the cloud fishing hook and placed a piece of demonic beast meat on the hook, slowly approaching the surface of the water. As soon as the piece of demonic beast meat touched the surface of the water, it turned into steam, but the cloud fishing hook was unharmed. Yun Chujio thought to herself, "This 10,000-year-old dark steel is really useful." The demonic beasts were both shocked and ecstatic. "Oh my, I didn't expect this little girl to have such a good treasure." They felt that the Lai Yen Vermilion Lotus was already within their grasp. When the time came, they would be able to obtain the Lai Yen Vermilion Lotus, and at the same time, they would be able to open their meat. It was simply wonderful. Right at this moment, the spiritual energy suddenly became denser. The demonic beasts all held their breaths carefully. The Lai Yen Vermilion Lotus was about to bloom. Yun Chujio's gaze landed on Lai Yen as well. The petals of Lai Yen and Lai Yen slowly opened, and a faint fragrance was emitted. An hour later, Lai Yen and Lai Yen appeared on the cold spring in an extremely gorgeous manner. Chapter 54:10 The style of a nest. Be it the demonic beasts or Jisoo and the rest, they were all amazed by the splendor of the flaming vermilion lotus. Beautiful. Too beautiful. So beautiful that they couldn't bear to pick it. So beautiful that they felt pity for it. Yun Chujio frowned slightly. There was something wrong with the flaming vermilion lotus. No matter how beautiful it was, it wouldn't make Jisoo and the rest and the demonic beasts so intoxicated. Its fragrance should have a mesmerizing effect. However, the fragrance did not have any effect on her. One had to admit that Guai Chao was very useful sometimes. Yun Chujio took out the cloud fishing hook and aimed it at the flaming vermilion lotus. Lai Yen, Lai Yen, Lai Yen, Lai Yen, and Lai Yen. However, she was shocked to find that the flaming vermilion lotus had moved. The moment it moved, the cloud fishing hook missed. Moreover, the length of the cloud fishing hook was limited and there was no way to bend it. Therefore, Yun Chujio was unable to hook the flaming vermilion lotus even after a long time. The worst thing was that the Lai Yen vermilion lotus was already showing signs of withering. If she continued to delay, she was afraid that she would return empty-handed. Although Yun Chujio had the fire-repelling bead, this cold spring was really strange. She did not dare to take the risk. It would be too stupid to turn herself into steam for a lotus flower. While Yun Chujio was worrying, the Guai Chao in her dantian was acting cute and took the initiative to ask for a fight. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. That's right. Goei Batsao was a spiritual beast. It was not afraid of the cold spring. Therefore, she released Goei Batsao. Even though the demonic beasts were confused by the scent of Lai Yen, they were still shocked when they saw Goei Batsao. What the hell was this? Goei Batsao swaggered toward Lai Yen. Lai Yen was so scared that it kept retreating, but it was futile. Goei Batsao quickly wrapped the stem of Lai Yen Zhu Lian with its leaves. With a little force, Lai Yen Zhu Lian was uprooted. Then, Lai Yen Zhu Lian was pulled in front of Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio stretched out her hand to catch Lai Yen Zhu Lian. See below, actually still crisp and fresh tender lotus root, cannot help but be very satisfied with Goei Batsao. She was very pleased with the way she behaved. Yun Chujio is feeling, but lost the control of the body. She watched the dantian inside the Guai Chao to the plant of Lai Yen Zhu Lian to the Guai Chao also know Lai Yen Zhu Lian flower is useful to Yun Chujio, and did not swallow the flowers, but the stems and leaves and lotus root to swallow. This thing finally to Yun Chujio left a piece of lotus root, said it did not eat alone. When Yun Chujio regained control of her body, she was so angry that she wanted to disembowel the Guai Chao. However, the Guai Chao felt that it didn't do anything wrong. It plucked the flaming vermilion lotus with its own ability, so it should have eaten it. It left her a flower and a piece of lotus root. What was there to be dissatisfied about? This stupid girl was too greedy. Yun Chujio wanted to vent her anger on the Goei Batsao, but she didn't find any traces of the Goei Batsao. She didn't know if it had hidden away its small treasury or if it had dissipated. However, Yun Chujio didn't have the time to settle the score with Goei Batsao, because the demonic beasts had already woken up. They stared at the flaming vermilion lotus and the tender lotus root in Yun Chujio's hand like tigers staring at their prey. Yun Chujio originally wanted to play tricks with these demonic beasts, but because she was angered by Guai Chao, she said with a gloomy face, "Do you want to keep the Lai Yen Zhu Lian and eat us?" Those high-level demonic beasts didn't put Yun Chujio in their eyes at all, so their roars were full of disdain. Chapter 54:11. Who wants to be the scapegoat? Jesus' heart pounded violently. Does junior sister Yun have a way to escape? If not, she would really die today. At this moment, Yun Chujio's figure appeared in front of a high-level demonic beast like a ghost and slapped its head. No one knew how she did it, but the demonic beast's head instantly turned into charcoal. It couldn't even let out a scream. The other high-level demonic beasts were so scared that they took a few steps back and let out earth-shattering roars. There was anger and fear in the roars. This stinky girl was only at the second level of spirit extinguisher. How did she do it? At this moment, Yun Chujio's spiritual power soared and she recovered to the 6th level of spirit extinguisher. The few high-level demonic beasts present were equivalent to a human at the 5th level of spirit extinguisher. When they saw Yun Chujio's cultivation soar, they took a few steps back. However, when they thought about it again, they realized that they had the absolute advantage in numbers. There was no need to be afraid of this wretched girl, so they roared again. "All of you shut the fuck up." Yun Chujio waved her hand, and several bolts of lightning struck the empty space beside her. Instantly, a few deep scorch marks appeared on the ground. "Do you all think that we can attack together? How naive and ridiculous! Even if we are not your opponents in the end, we can at least kill dozens of demonic beasts, right? Let me ask you, which one of you wants to be the one to die? You, or you?" The demonic beasts that were pointed at by Yun Chujio instantly shivered and could not help but take a few steps back. What a joke, they were not stupid. They did not want to be the scapegoat. Yun Chujio continued with a cold smile. "Even if someone is willing to be the scapegoat and you kill us in the end, I will ask you how to distribute this Lai Yen Cinnabar lotus. When the time comes, many demonic beasts will definitely kill each other in order to snatch this Lai Yen Cinnabar lotus. Who knows, when the time comes, the demonic beasts or humans who come after us might take advantage of it. I will ask you, what exactly do you want? Also, this Lai Yen Julien is rare, but you are sure to eat this thing really good for you? Aren't you afraid this thing's gonna eat you alive? Is it worth risking your life for something so uncertain? Those beasts were a bit confused by Yun Chujia's words. How to listen to her say so, this Lai Yen Julien is a hot potato, is not a good thing. That's right, no one had eaten the Lai Yen Vermilion Lotus. It was hard to say whether it was good or bad if it was swallowed. The most important thing was that none of them wanted to be scapegoats. This little girl was a little strange. If they were not careful, they would die. Yun Chujio glanced at them and said, "We have no grudges in the distant days and no grudges in the recent days. There is no need to fight to the death. At least you protected this Lai Yen Julien for a period of time. I just took, it is not fair to you. Tell you what, why don't you let us go and he'll give you some medicine for healing, and we'll have the best of both worlds, okay?" Yun Chujio said, took out a few pots of pills on the ground. The rich fragrance of medicine instantly spread. Ji Su and the others looked at the pots of medicinal pills on the ground and were all dumbstruck. Oh my God! A pervert was indeed a pervert. Other people's medicinal pills were stored in bottles, but she had actually used pots to store them. Most importantly, where did these medicinal pills come from? If they were bought, how much would it cost? If she had refined them herself, oh my God, that would be even more perverted. Chapter 54:12. The Cave of Life. Those demonic beasts didn't have as many thoughts as Jisoo and the others. They were already drooling over those few pots of medicinal pills. Although the blazing flame vermilion lotus was precious, there were too many variables. It was still better to have real medicinal pills. If you agree, make way for me. I will give these medicinal pills to you before I leave, Yun Chujio said indifferently. The high-level demonic beasts looked at each other and instantly came to an agreement. They moved out of the way. Seeing this, the other demonic beasts also moved out of the way. Yun Chujio put away the pills and led Jisoo and the others down the mountain. Jisoo and the others were not as calm as Yun Chujio. They were all very nervous. They were afraid that the demonic beasts would go back on their words. They wished they could grow a pair of wings and fly away immediately. After getting out of the encirclement of the demonic beasts, Yun Chujio released the 4 Seasons violent bear and sat on its back. Then she threw a few pots of medicinal pills to the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts were instantly thrown into chaos and began to fight over the medicinal pills. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips and left. What she did not know was that after she left, a purple Gowei Batsao appeared under the white snow. This fellow was so angry that it gritted its teeth as it looked at the demonic beasts. These were all its rations. Now, it had benefited these fools. However, it had finally found a chance to accumulate a small treasury and could play properly. This fellow sneakily followed behind Yun Chujio and the others. This place was high in the mountains and dense in the woods, so it was easy to hide. This fellow wasn't afraid of being discovered at all. After Yun Chujio and the others rode the demonic beasts to the foot of the winter peak, Yun Chujio released the dozen or so demonic beasts and even gave them some medicinal pills. They left happily. Junior sister Yun, which peak should we go to next? Jisoo asked. Spring Dawn Peak, Yun Chujio said lightly. The reason why they chose Spring Dawn Peak was firstly because it was the closest to Winter Peak. Secondly, the 5 people from the Bitter Zen sect went to Spring Dawn Peak. They would take them for their own use first so that it would be convenient for them to carry out their next task. Junior sister Yun, we don't have a map now. How can we find the withered bone Ganoderma? Jisoo said with a bitter face. Yun Chujio glanced at him. Senior brother Jisoo, is your brain just for show? Jisoo, did junior sister Yun mean that she had memorized the maps of the 4 peaks? Perverts were indeed perverts. The group soon arrived at Chunshao Peak. Their eyes were full of vitality and the climate was very pleasant. Jisoo curled his lips. The people of the bitter Zen sect know how to pick a place. Chunshao Peak is much better than the winter peak. Yun Chujio said meaningfully, the spring dawn peak is not bad, but the life cave where the withered Ganoderma grows might not be. Ji Su thought of the cold spring on the winter peak and immediately understood Yun Chujio's meaning. The name of the withered Ganoderma was very scary. It was likely that the life cave would be filled with bad luck. The 6 of them moved forward and almost did not see any traces of demonic beasts. Could it be that they had all run to the life cave and were ready to fight for the withered Ganoderma? The weather at Spring Dawn Peak was pleasant, and everyone moved very quickly. In just one day, they had reached the vicinity of the life cave. Without noticing anything unusual, the 6 of them carefully entered the life cave. Once they entered the life cave, the 6 of them immediately felt refreshed. It was not because the spiritual energy here was rich, but because there was a pleasant feeling. Perhaps this was the origin of the life cave. The group walked further in, and the front suddenly became clear. A large empty space appeared in front of them, and there were many demonic beasts gathered there. Yuan Ji and the others were curled up in a corner, covered in wounds. Chapter 54:13 Ganoderma lucidum. Yuan Ji almost cried when he saw Yun Chujio. He finally saw the hope of survival. He did not want to die here. Yuan Qing and the others beside him were also delighted when they saw Yun Chujio and the others, but they were instantly disappointed again. There were only 6 people, and they were no match for these demonic beasts. It was a waste of time to come here. Yun Chujio saw a small Ganoderma growing on the stone wall at the end of the Cave of Life. This must be the so-called skeleton Ganoderma. This thing did not seem to have any connection with the skeleton. These demonic beasts actually did not eat Yuan Ji and the others. Could it be related to the skeleton Ganoderma? Just as she was pondering, Ji Su said with a trembling voice, Yun, junior sister Yun, what should we do? We should escape. Ji Su said this because some of the demonic beasts were already approaching the 6 of them. Stop. If you continue to move forward, I will collapse this cave. No one can think of anything. Yun Chujio said as she took out a large kitchen knife and hacked at the rock wall at the side. With a crack instantly appeared on the rock wall. The demonic beasts were so scared that they didn't dare to move. Wasn't the kitchen knife in this smelly girl's hand a little too strange? It was actually so powerful? If the cave collapsed, not to mention the Ganoderma, they would also be buried in it. We don't have any other intentions. We just want to broaden our horizons. Anyway, we are so far away, so we can't fight with you for the Ganoderma. What are you afraid of? Or is it that you have so many beasts, so why are you afraid of the 6 of us? Yun Chujio said with a hint of mockery. At this time, the few high-level beasts at the front let out a few low roars. The beasts that were about to attack Yun Chujio and the others retreated to their original positions. However, there were still a few beasts that were staring at them, afraid that they would cause trouble. Yuan Qing saw the situation and said to Yuan Ji with a cold snort, See? You treat that brat as your junior sister, but she doesn't treat you as her senior brother. She doesn't care about our lives at all. Yuan Ji was also a little disappointed, but he still said, What's the use of saying this? I said that I would follow junior sister Yun, but you guys just didn't agree. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself. Yuan Qing snorted coldly, Do you think they can escape? They will die here in the end. Yuan Ji didn't say anything. His gaze fell on the skeleton Lingji. These demonic beasts didn't kill them. What were they trying to do? As time passed, the dried-up bone Ganoderma gradually grew larger, but it was still only the size of 2 thumb covers. At this moment, a bitter Zen sect disciple beside Yuan Ji screamed in pain. At some point, many red roots emerged from the ground, wrapping the disciple like a cocoon. The disciple was instantly dragged to the stone wall. Almost instantly, the disciple turned into a dried-up bone. The Ganoderma on the stone wall actually broke away from the stone wall and moved onto the skeleton. At the same time, the Ganoderma slowly transformed into the shape of a skeleton. Yuan Ji and the others were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They let out terrified screams and tried their best to escape. However, just as they managed to stand up, a few demonic beasts stretched out their claws and slapped them onto the ground. Jisoo and the others were also shocked by this turn of events. Oh God, could it be that the dry bone Ganoderma got its name because of this? It grew on dry bones? No wonder these demonic beasts did not kill Yuan-ji and the others. It turned out that they were planning to use them to cultivate the dry bone Ganoderma. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.